The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Rev and the beginning of another week. So let's get the COVID through. And if you hear all kinds of rumbling in the background, it's just the excavation that's going on outside my window.
They're digging up the bodies?
They're digging up County Street.
I was going to say, they're digging up the bodies. Okay, COVID numbers as of yesterday, I think. Yes, they are. Total cases is 656,838. New cases is 494. Total deaths is 17,394. New deaths is 5. Bristol County is 66,172. And that's the numbers. And people taking vaccines is sliding down. So we're trying to get more people out to get vaccines. But people, I think we're about ready to meet, our max number of people that want to take the vaccine. There's still a lot of anti-vaxxers out there and a lot of people which don't feel comfortable taking this vaccine. They feel it hasn't been tested enough. So Chip and I have taken it, and we still have one head. We don't have 6 heads and 12 arms. So and we didn't have any side effects either. So that's a good thing.
True. And listen, the problem I'm having is this attack on the people who don't want to take the vaccine and somehow thinking that the powers to be have the right to mandate things to you. This country was based on freedom. And look, the reality is that you and I have taken a vaccine. I also had COVID. So I've got antibodies from having it, and I've got the vaccination. So, but that's my choice. If people don't want to take it, let's face it. The people who do can say, well, I've been vaccinated against it. And all these vaccines are extremely effective. So, if somebody else gets COVID because they don't want to take the vaccine, they're willing to take that chance. Unfortunately, that's their prerogative. There is a way, if you believe in vaccines and you believe the data, which is fairly conclusive, they said, that these vaccines are extremely effective. You just take the vaccine. It's like there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who don't take a flu vaccine. So, but this one, they've made a political football out of it, and they want to deny people rights and actually attack people who don't take the vaccine. I mean, that some media outlets are attacking these people, suggesting that some of them should be put in jail for not taking the vaccine. That's absurd. So listen, there's a way to protect yourself against this, just like there's a way to protect yourself against the flu. Take a flu shot. Can you get the flu? Yeah, maybe. Can you get this? Yeah, maybe. But if you take the vaccine, you're protected. And if some other person doesn't want to take that, to me, that's their choice.
Well, you're right. And, when you're looking at the fact that, the CDC is coming out with these ambiguous statements about masks, because how do you tell who's unvaccinated and who's vaccinated? Because the order is if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask. But how do you know who's unvaccinated? Is it like, your sex? If you identify as a male, you're a male. If you identify as a female, you're a female. If you identify as neutral, you're neutral. Is that if I identify as taking a vaccine, but I didn't take it, does that mean I'm vaccinated? This is the big question. How can we be sure? How do we know who's vaccinated, who's not? Do we tattoo it on our foreheads. You know, people want to know, and people still don't feel safe and secure with what's going on. But enough about COVID. I want to talk about the fact that if you're from Fall River, you have served time.
Yeah. I believe the beginning of that show, which I watched, about the Carl Drew murders and Satanic Cult. I believe the individual said, well, if you're from Fall River, you probably did time, and going to jail is like a high school reunion. You see all your friends. So again, here's Fall River and what people think of it. And believe me, that series is not going to do this city much good in a positive perception of what this city is.
No. You know, I was asked by a city councilor, did Alan Sylvia star in the episode? I don't want to say he starred in the episode. And I said, no, Alan didn't star in the episode. He had a good portion of the episode, but so did Joaquim, who was the investigating officer. So did a state police investigator. So did some former prostitutes. So did Carl Drew. You know, I mean, they actually went and interviewed Carl Drew in prison. And I'm sure we'll be seeing more of him. And he still holds that his conviction is false, that he did nothing. And then according to alleged testimony, that confirms that he did nothing. Well, if he did nothing, why did he get convicted? He said if he was going to be convicted of something, he should have at least been convicted of something he did. But you know, when they're in jail, they're all innocent. So
true, but you know that series really casts Fall River in a really. I mean, when you look at some of the denizens of the deep, of the dark, you think that they think everybody in Fall River is that way, especially with that opening. And then the other thing was the fact that they highlighted in this show to me that the prostitution and all this stuff was taking place within a couple of blocks of the police station. Yeah. So the Pier 14 was one of the primary areas where it was happening, and that was only a few blocks from a police station.
And Charlie's Cafe,
all the old haunts, but as I said, look, it happened. The documentary is there for some people who don't remember it. You know, you get some shots of old Fall River and the old police cars, but again, it's Fall River showing that these problems that have never been ever really eradicated. And that was 1979. So we had prostitution, drug problems, and you know, we did have a little lull in them, but they're still here. And unfortunately,
they've just moved.
Unfortunately, free movies and car parades do not cure these problems. To me, when I look at the city and I look at any kind of meaningful programs for this, for eradicating these problems and this crime wave that has made us number one in the state, I just don't see anything being done. All I see is taxes and a lot of rhetoric and not a lot of action.
Well, what was interesting was this miniseries portrayed Fall River so bad that even the prostitutes from New Bedford came to Fall River. The prostitutes from Providence came to Fall River, and our Fall River police did absolutely nothing about it. They were oblivious to it. And as a matter of fact, it was said that the police officers would actually become the Johns and utilize these prostitutes, and if they didn't service them, they would arrest them. Now, I've heard of that type of corruption a long time ago, and this was a long time ago. But I mean, really, that's again, Fall River and its corruption. You know, it's everywhere. It's everywhere, and we've been saying it for years that it's everywhere. So, But now it's being proven. So once again, we're right, they're wrong. What the hell?
Well, that was like 41 years ago. But the fact is that, listen, just goes to prove that if you allow these problems to just go on, and the city's response to it is to ignore them fundamentally, this is what happens. And look, we look at Fall River, we see the crime. You had a shooting on Cedar Street, you had a stabbing on your street. You see all this stuff going on. And do we remember the old days when the police department would come up and they'd have a press conference about what they were going to do to combat the crime? And, you know, we had a big deal with prostitution years ago. They had issues. But, we know we've got a massive drug problem. And the only thing I ever hear is bringing more druggies into the city because we're expanding our facilities to house them. And then when they get out, they basically stay here because this is a haven for the drug trade. And I just don't see, to me, that's the primary problem we have in the city. Who wants to come to this city? They look at this documentary, they look at the present stats. That was then, and this is now. You have a common denominator. This city has a lot of crime, whether it's prostitution or drug use. And there's, who is going to come here to live? That's a normal person. I mean, you think you're going to live here rather than Somerset, or if you're going to come to this area or something in the suburbs? And as you said, what do you got? Fall River, New Bedford. And even the New Bedford and Providence prostitutes were coming to Fall River. So just like the druggies, they come to Fall River a lot. So, and that's the problem. The problem is we keep seeing our budget going through the ceiling. We keep seeing these massive increases in fees, and we're told that you have to increase the taxes every year to the max, and then throw in an override now and then, and a few bonds. And what do we see for it? What are we getting? What is prioritized? Pay raises, expansion of departments, and creating new positions like deans of students and assistant superintendents of schools and extra people in every department that get big salaries. But do we ever see any money earmarked for combating crime? Do we ever have any press conferences about improving the lot of the taxpayer? Do we ever see any attempt at reducing costs and eliminating some of these pork positions? No.
Of course not.
No, that's the problem here. The problem is a lot of political rhetoric and absolutely no action for the benefit of the taxpayer.
And that's, and you're right. This is how come we're in the situation we're in all the time. Now, what's very interesting, though, is, you talked about pay raises and whatnot. Don't forget the stipends. Don't forget the stipends. And we saw what's happened with stipends with Jen Andrade. They went back to the mayor. I'm not saying this mayor's doing that. Don't get me wrong. Don't put words in my mouth. Okay, so I'm not saying that. But again, we see the abuse of the stipend system. So much so that the city council at one time wanted to make it so that the city council would have to look at those stipends and approve them. And that never happened. And I think we need to have that happen. Yeah. And then when you've got people getting a stipend because they're doing 2 or 3 jobs and they're not getting paid for the 2 or 3 jobs, maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's not a good thing. But don't turn around and say, well, we want to include it in their pensions, we want to include it in their benefit packages, we want to include it in everything. Because guess what? You can't. You can't. And you would know that, and I believe you're in a battle for that right now. But people got to understand, and this is the problem with this mayor. He doesn't care about the law. Here's the law. Read it to him clearly. Right in his face, put it. Here it is, right in your face. And he still doesn't want to see it, doesn't want to hear it, walks away from it, ignores it. What kind of mayor is that? That's the Fall River mayor who doesn't have to follow the law. Just look at the one that we're waiting to get sentenced. Doesn't have to follow the law. Okay,
Well,
like it or not, whether you break a small law or a big law, you're breaking the law, and that's just the way it is.
no, you're right, CJ. But here is a man that's come from the school department. We know that the school department, because of its autonomy, does a lot of things that are not that are really not legal, and they just cover it up, and nobody ever knows about it because then they just suppress evidence like they did with Malone, and nobody knows. So he's come over from that environment, and he thinks he can do it on the city side. First of all, let me explain something about stipends. Stipends are always given as a way to give somebody a little extra money. But the problem is most stipends, because the retirement laws have been changed, they are not pensionable. They are not pensionable. But they want them to be pensionable for their friends. And the thing is, the retirement board cannot do that. They don't understand. He doesn't understand. He doesn't have a clue. He thought that the PEC had three people on it, when the law clearly states that there is a representative from every collective bargaining unit and the retirees. It's right in the law. And he was showed the law, but he still said, no, there's only three people, because he's confusing another thing about when you have an issue that has to go to a arbitration or a mediation about healthcare plans. It's like he doesn't have a clue. He doesn't know how to read contract language. He doesn't know how to read laws, and he doesn't care about it, apparently. So that therein lies the rub. But the retirement board can't grant something that's illegal. You can't say it's pensionable, and you send it to PERAC, and PERAC's going to kick it back because they're going to say, "What are you people, idiots down there? You can't read the law." So they say every time there's any kind of extra benefit, it has to be sent to the retirement board, and we don't make the decision. Our attorney does. We're not going to say, well, I think. No, we're going to let an expert, an attorney who's only is a specialty attorney. He only does public pension law, always has his entire life. He represents, I don't know, maybe 100 retirement boards in the state. He's one of the premier lawyers in the state. Very rarely have we ever lost any ruling that he's ever made, if ever. I don't remember anything ever being overturned. And the fact is, when when they send that over, the director then looks and sends it over to our attorney, and he will come back and say, okay, this is not pensionable under the law, and that's the way it is. So we don't grant it, because if we did, PERAC would overturn it, and they'd say, what are you fools doing down there in Fall River? You can't follow the law? No, we can follow the law, but the politicians don't want to follow the law. That's the problem. So it's not really an issue. It's look, we're going to do what we are fiduciarily responsible to do. That is, watch and pay every penny that somebody deserves, but we can't violate the law and give people money that is not pensionable by the law. It's that simple. But you got a problem with a mayor who doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand the process, and frankly, he doesn't care about the process. He thinks he can just go down there and demand what he wants, and he's going to get it. And it's not going to happen. He's going to do what he's got to do. He doesn't understand the difference between stuff that's statutory and stuff that is negotiable. It's just whatever I want to talk about, we can talk about, and that's not the way it goes. But this is the problem we have. It's, you could say maybe he's got a nice personality, but as far as his ability to understand that job, I think unfortunately he is subpar at best.
Yeah. At least it's an honest interpretation of what we are seeing. And like it or not, that's just the way it is. I don't care how much you like somebody. When you're judging somebody for the office of mayor, you have to judge them, number one, if they're an incumbent, based upon what they have accomplished. Accomplishing a drive-in movie theater, accomplishing a street, a neighborhood cleanup, accomplishing 3 events in front of government center and down at the Children's Museum is not accomplishments. What have you accomplished for the taxpayer? How many taxes have you cut? How many departments have saved any money? How many fees have you cut? What have you done to benefit the taxpayer? What have you done to benefit the citizens? So far, I haven't seen much, if anything. I don't know about you, Chip, but I haven't seen much.
Well, look, as you said, CJ, a lot of people can't make that distinction, and that's the reason we get the problems we have at all levels of government. They elect people that they like or have a nice personality, and rather than people who can do the job. That's not the way you hire a plumber or an electrician or a mechanic, auto mechanic. You want somebody who can fix your car. I don't care what kind of personality he's got. I want to get quality work and get my car fixed or get my electrical system done properly. And, this is not the way many people select it. And I believe Sean Kadim really said it when he said that Jasiel was a better leader. It seems that Mayor Coogan has no leadership ability. He can't lead. All he does is he wants to run everything by consensus, and that's not what leaders do. Leaders lead. It's lead, follow, or get out of the way. And as a public official, as I said, look, I remember occasionally Jasiel would walk into when we were meeting up on the 6th floor at the conference room, the mayor's conference room, he'd know that we were in there on a IAC or PEC. He'd stick his head in, say, "Hey, hi, everybody. How you doing?" and leave. No, he understood that HR and we work together and that we've been doing a good job for a very long time. And he basically said, okay, I'll trust my people to give me the information and everything is going okay. So if everything's going okay, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But not this guy. This guy wants to give out a couple of holidays so he can say, look, I'm giving you a freebie and jeopardize, the employees' trust fund if we change plans. And the law clearly states that you have to maintain something. And if there's a dispute over how much, I guess we're going to find out legally who determines it, the employees or the thing. But this is not a negotiable item. He continues to attempt to go down there and negotiate. He's not negotiating anything. He's asking for permission to jeopardize the employee trust fund, which they are only custodians of. So he's not going to get my permission to do something that is foolish. I've talked to people in the industry. They said, number one, if you do give a holiday, nobody's ever given 2, because that takes too much out of the fund, which is there for a very specific purpose. And if you really want to read it, go to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 32B, Section 3A, and look at the section that talks about the treasurer shall maintain adequate funds for incurred bills and other unforeseen things. I'm paraphrasing, but the thing is, this guy doesn't care. He's going to go there and give his interpretation, which is from Carl Clueless, because he doesn't even have a clue how the system works, what the laws are, because frankly, the PEC is there to negotiate healthcare plans and premiums and copays, not to deal with the trust fund. The trust fund is a completely separate section of the law, and there is no bargaining mechanism in those sections. It is the law. So you have to follow the law. But he doesn't get it, and he never will, apparently, because I think his political agenda, it has far more weight for him than actually complying with the protocols that are put in place to do this. So are we going to have a problem? We already do. But if he wants to say, well, I'm going to do it anyway, well, he'll take the hit. Yeah, I'm not saying that we can give him out. Maybe we could get lucky. But as I said in my letter to the HR director, if he wants to shoot craps, let him shoot craps with his own money. I don't want to do that with the employee trust fund because I don't want to run out of money because we can't raise taxes and fees and rob from the snow removal account to pay off our shortfalls. If we go short, we're getting it right out of our pocket. It's coming right out of the pockets of these employees that he's promising free money to. Well, you won't like it if we end up $1 million or $2 million in the hole, and that's going to be added to your premium to pay it back. So,
true.
It is what it is. And like I said, if he wants to, we've already said that we are looking at a premium around Christmas time as long as the numbers, and we're tracking the numbers. But the fact is he doesn't want to. He just wants to do it for the election. So he's got his agenda, and our agenda is simple. Our fiduciary responsibility to our employees in the fund. So, and so that never the twain shall meet. Look if all he had to do was say, okay, you guys, looks like you might have one. Good. Because I don't care if he takes credit for it. I don't care. Frankly, I don't care. If he wants to run around saying it was my idea, let him say it was his idea. I don't give a damn. The only concern I have is to make sure that it's fiscally prudent. But then again, we're dealing with a politician versus people who have a responsibility to their memberships.
True. Well, you mentioned the taking money out of the snow removal budget. Brings us back to the Jasiel trial. While it's over, and we know what the verdict was, guilty on 21 counts, he still believes that he's innocent. He said that he will be vindicated on appeal. He's not showing the judge that he has any remorse. The judge even told him, you need to cooperate with probation for the pre-sentencing report. That's not cooperating with probation. That's not cooperating. That's not showing any remorse. And if you're not going to show any remorse, guess what? This judge isn't going to have any sympathy on you. You're going to end up serving time, some heavy time. Now, he may not get 20 years, which I believe he should get, but he's going to get something. And I'm not exactly sure what he's going to get, but I wouldn't want to be him. He's been released, obviously, as people know. He is wearing a GPS bracelet or anklet so they can track his whereabouts because they don't think he's going to flee, and they don't think he's dangerous to himself or somebody else. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. I thought for sure that they would have revoked his bail. But I guess if you're a politician, you're treated differently. Because if it was you or I, Chip, they would have revoked our bail in a heartbeat.
Yeah, we'd be walking the tear.
That's right.
But
that's right.
But remember, he said he's going to be vindicated. I just want to say this. I don't think he will be, but the fact is, if he is, it'll be on a technicality. That's not vindication. It doesn't mean you're not guilty. It means it's like the guy that killed 28 people in the McDonald's years ago and got acquitted because they didn't Mirandize him properly. The guy murdered 28 people and was found not guilty on a technicality. So remember, when they're looking at this, even if he beats it, it will probably be on a technicality and not on the fact that he wasn't guilty of the crimes he was convicted of.
As far as people are concerned, he's always going to be guilty of those crimes, even if he gets, and even if they overturn a few of the verdicts. But 21 verdicts, I doubt they're going to get them overturned. But hey, who am I? I'm just a citizen. But that's just the way it is for me. But, well, I want to thank you all for allowing us into your home today. Thank you for watching. It's been a great time, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, wear a mask, and hold your politicians accountable. Welcome to Fall River.
Pay your taxes.